Welcome. Welcome to the Art and Science of Music, track 2 of The Power of the Playlist. And we are going to start by looking at me at 4 years old. And if you are at all questioning whether I was meant to be a certified music therapist, I can just say, point to this young person here, and you can see how his brain is lit up by my music at being a young person just sitting right there. I have always been curious about music. I've been curious about how every song has resonated with me so profoundly, and I've anchored it to certain specific memories. But I'm equally curious as to the music that I've heard that hasn't done that. And then there may be that level of curiosity over the years, and especially as I've started practicing, about the curiosity of what music affects other people and why. And then again, why is it that certain music doesn't affect you? Today we're going to explore that a little bit deeper in track 2. And we're going to start by watching a short video clip from very early in my career, like year 1, when I was just starting out, and I was hired by a program called Project Hope. Hope standing for Holistic Opportunities Provided in Education. As someone who is a proponent for public education and music in that public education, to go this step further to ensure that music is inclusive for every student, that's what Project Hope was trying to bring in 1991. So this film, the reason I'm showing it to you today is because I'm remembering when I went there the first time and I was being introduced to some of my clients. And as I went to the kindergarten classroom to pick up my very first student that I was going to be working with that day, the teacher came to the door and she kind of closed it behind her so she could whisper something to me. She said, "Jen, I want you to know that Marissa can't communicate." That was my first introduction, and I hadn't even seen her yet. Marissa and I walked to the music room, and together we would walk into a space that I'm so grateful we have video of this. We would walk into a space where she would have a cymbal before her, I would have a piano, and we would make music together. What I'd like you as an audience to do today is, as you're watching, I want you to think about and feel what Marissa is trying to communicate to us, because she is indeed communicating.
Plays the cymbal. Marissa plays the cymbal.
Marissa, what did we learn about that? This was before the fMRI machine was able to take images of what was happening in our brain as we were listening to music, which we're getting a lot more often now. But at that time, it was what we were seeing. I'd actually like to open up to the audience. I'd love to hear from you. What did Marissa say about herself? What was she sharing with us? Does anyone have a comment on that? There's no wrong answer, by the way, ever.
I see the joy that she's gaining from the music as she's, the way that she's learning and developing a way of creating the sound. Yeah. And that as she does it more and more, there's more and more joy coming, being expressed by her.
I love how you phrased that she was controlling and creating the sound, and through that, she was feeling so much joy. Thank you. So, what would you write on her report card? What else did she share with us? Yeah.
What I observed was she was longing to be in harmony or to be in sync with what you were playing. Mm-hmm. So I observed that when you used to stop, she used to stop as well. And I saw that longing emotion on her face, that she wants something to happen and she wants to be in sync with you. So I saw that harmony, or that longing to be in harmony, through the help of sound or music that she was creating and generating through that symbol.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Longing for harmony with someone else. Thank you. Anything else that she was telling you about herself? Yes.
It was interesting because at first you were following her. She was taking the lead and you were playing along with her, and then it sort of shifted where then she started following you. So it seemed like there was a bit of a trust building that was happening as well.
Yes. And isn't that a wonderful thing to be able to say that Marissa had strengths in both leading and following, right? Leading to this incredible relationship that we would develop over the next many years of working together. Thank you for that. Anything else? How about sassy? Did you see any sass in her? Right? She showed a little spunk, right? She also loved the camera. Did you notice that, hey? And this was like pre-selfies. You can imagine what that turned into later. Yeah. Anything else Marissa shared with us just through this short interchange? Yes.
She had a real sense of rhythm.
She did. Yeah.
Like she could copy your rhythm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she had a really high cognitive process for anticipation. She could anticipate what was about to happen. So these are some of the things that we were able to see long before we saw the imaging. But I think we were still surprised when we finally got that fMRI machine in front of us, and we saw, just like that kid in my 4-year-old video, that music literally lights up the brain. We get lit when we are listening to music that matters the most to us. Actually, there is no single activity that stimulates more areas of the brain simultaneously than when we listen to music that does matter to us. And that's why this matters. That we begin to take a moment and intentionally curate music that is going to help with our health and well-being. I was really fortunate. This is one of the images we spent a lot of time putting together as we put together the Wellness Well Played book. I worked with experts in the area, neurologists in the area, to help me really frame it on exactly what was happening in the different areas of the brain and how music is truly a global brain process. That there is not one place where music resides. And that may be why, at times when there may have been some form of disease, illness, or injury, that we can still access music and use it to strengthen us for other things. Also, because our brain, we now know, is plastic, we can grow some new neural pathways, and music's a great way for us to do that. So if you ever needed a reason to explore new music and to remember old music, that's for sure going to be one of those reasons. As we're looking at this image, I want to remind us that, nothing works just by itself. Things are often in groups. And an example of that is when we are looking at what we call the heart center of our emotional processing, the amygdala, which is one of the smallest places in the brain, but it's the heart center of our emotional processes. And when that part is fired up for something that is on the negative side, be it stress, I don't know, maybe that doesn't apply to any person in this room right now. But when we start worrying about something over and over again, that frequent, like it's going around and all you want to do is watch television and eat chips. So it might be those moments that we can use music in a very curated, specific way to help fan out that flame and go to other areas of the brain. Even us talking about music today, even us intentionally being here today and just thinking about the music in our lives, it can take us into different areas of the brain, like the hippocampus, which is a place of beautiful memories of music and where we can start feeling more creative and warm. In addition to this, you probably already know that we release neurotransmitters and we release different hormones in our body as we listen to music. Those, we're going to talk about the top 4, although there's others. But the top 4, the dopamine, the feel-good hormone. When we hit the music right, we can absolutely increase the amount of dopamine in our body. And let's face it, we don't feel good all the time. We'd like to, but it's just not always, what the day's going to bring for us. Listening to music for even a short period of time can help you with that boost. And that's why curating the perfect playlist for us that's specific to your own preferences can matter. The second one, serotonin. Serotonin, when it gets too low, is when you feel low. There's a beautiful window. We often talk about regulating our mood. Serotonin has a lot to do with that. Music has the capacity to also help us regulate. Third, oxytocin. This is that connector we talk about, our social bonding, feeling connected not only to others, but to ourselves. Most of the research around oxytocin has been with choirs. Anyone singing in a choir right now? Oh, we need more choir people. If you were here last week, we talked about that moment where someone has said, just you can mouth the words, when we were in elementary school. And I am here to tell you that it was only 500 years ago that we created the stage. Up till then, it was community music. We were all singing a little bit and certainly humming. So I'm going to say, let's forget about that old narrative. Let's move into a new one. And if you're in, there's lots of non-auditioned choirs that people can join. So I want to encourage all of us to sing. And if you don't want to join a choir, humming. Humming in the shower is good. Next week, we're going to be talking about our resources for the playlist. And one of the things we're going to talk about is the power of humming. Cortisol. cortisol goes down as we listen to the right music that soothes us. When we listen to music we can't stand, and I want you to think about that music right now. We're not going to share it as a group though, because there's no judgment in this space. I know some of you would be shocked to know what some of the other music was that people don't like. You know, like occasionally people don't like country. I know it's surprising for some of you. Some of you may not like rap. I know. Then there's classical. Whew, we're at the National Music Center. Let's not talk about that. But it's true. We don't all resonate to the same music, but we can remain curious about it. And what a beautiful way to get to know other people than through the music they love to listen to and why. The promise here is that music is arguably less expensive than drugs, it's easier on the body, and it doesn't have the same side effects. That's by Dr. Daniel Levitin, who wrote This Is Your Brain on Music. When you look at the previous slide, I'm just going back because I want to share that when you listen to music you don't like, those blood vessels actually constrict a little bit. That's actually what's happening. But when you listen to music that inspires you, those same blood vessels open up a bit and we get oxygen to the brain. So when Dr. Daniel Levitin is saying this, he's essentially saying that when we listen to the right music at the right time in the right way, that transformation can happen, that we can feel better, that those hormones and neurotransmitters are going to be at play for our good, that we can get more oxygen to the brain. The research over the last 25 years in particular have also revealed some really great things. And for those of you who are going to access the recording afterwards, and I hope you do, I'm going to be putting the links as to these specific articles along with the recording. And so some of the things we know for sure is that music can make repetitive tasks easier. I don't know if anyone here has a repetitive task you do. Perhaps it's washing dishes. Perhaps it's something else. Maybe something you don't love to do, but that has to be done. There is strong evidence that music can definitely assist with that. Music can also help with our cognitive load. It can help us ramp up a bit when we have to stay extra focused and diligent on a certain project, but it can also release some of the cognitive load to give us margin so we can feel greater ease in our life. There's lots of research that came out. This was some of the earliest research in the 90s about how music can lower our blood pressure. And that seemed to be incredibly important at the time because they were associating it to people also feeling less stressed. There's new evidence that it can also increase our blood pressure. So we have to keep in mind, what do we want to be using it for? Are we wanting to activate or are we wanting to soothe? And then there's reducing the perception of pain. The information here came from years ago. It would have come in World War II when the supply chain for pharmaceuticals began to diminish and people were hurt and sore and in deep pain in some cases. And that's when we started bringing the musicians into clinics and community programs that were caring for these people in order to help them feel distracted and also stimulated at the same time. And the byproduct was that they didn't need to focus on the pain. They had something else to focus on for a period of time. And the last one, and I will share all of the research around this in a little bit more when we get this out in the recording, is that it creates a passage to long-term memory. I don't know who here has been affected by dementia in your family, in your friendships, but we see that a lot here. when we look at music and how it continues to connect. If anybody here is ever visiting someone who may be struggling with their memory, maybe they're even forgetting your name, that you can go in and you remember their favorite song or a style, a genre that they love. I encourage everyone to use that as a visiting mechanism for you to have a very meaningful connection to the people that you love. As music therapists, and I mentioned this last week, a song is never just a song. We are constantly breaking down every piece of music and song into different elements. Some of them are up here today. We can look at genre, which is style, tempo, tempo, which is the speed, timbre, which is the tone. We know that melody's the one that you're singing whenever you're repeating in your mind that little earworm that you heard of a piece of music that you love. Rhythm, and then, of course, you are looking at lyric, the words. And for some of you in the audience, that's 100% of the reason why you choose the music you do. We break it down with every person we work with. And over the next 5 weeks, I'm going to be looking at these different elements in the different segments and how they individually affect us. But today, we are going to look at tempo. Just one element. Some of us might even think the simplest of them all. It's just the speed of the music. How much could that affect us? Well, we're going to do a little test right now. I am going to play 3 tempos. I'm encouraging everyone in the audience and everyone out there on the recording to just get comfortable, close your eyes, keep your feet flat on the floor, and I want you just to digest these 3 tempos and see how they fit with you today. Okay, everybody, I want you to have a quick conversation with someone that's sitting near you. Out of the 3, which one did you resonate with the most right now? Go ahead. All right, I am curious, who here in the room resonated the most with number 1 today? Number 1, put your hands up. Okay, thank you. Who resonated the most with number 2? Thank you. Who resonated the most with number 3? Thank you. Okay, we weren't all the same. How could that be? We're all here together. It's the same time of day. We're in the same place. But we all were connecting to a different tempo. I'm going to suggest that maybe the ones that were the first one, that maybe number 3 provoked a little, I don't know, anxiety, a little too much. Did you feel that piece? And I'm going to say that the people who really like number 3, Number one provoked a little anxiety and a little stress, right? It can go this way because we're all uniquely unique. We are all human. And what our past experiences that we have had are impacting how we're feeling about just tempo right now in our lives. And so you can see that by breaking down the different elements of music, one at a time, we're going to find out a lot about ourselves and have some great things to talk to others about. I know this next stat is absolutely correct because it was in Reader's Digest. And it was a combination of a series of studies that they were bringing into trying to figure out, is there a unique playlist that can help us de-stress? And what we're learning is there is no universal playlist for happy. There is no universal playlist for what can calm us. There is no universal playlist that can motivate us. It has always come down to what's personal for what we are. We just need to learn to curate it in the right way. The last 3 tracks that we're going through are going to be purposeful playlists for mood, memory, and motivation. Very specific for those days. But for right now, I can tell you that in Reader's Digest, if you listen to 20 minutes of music that soothes you, that you have curated that soothes you, just 20 minutes, it equals 10 milligrams of Valium. And if there's any RNs around, you could say, that's not too bad. That's not too bad that we can do that just by listening to 20 minutes of music that soothes us. My job is to help us increase the value of music in our lives and the usage of music in our lives. I am not going to sit here and pretend that music can absolutely get rid of every stress in the world for you. I wish I could say that. I wish I could just have this music magic wand that could take away your stress. But what I can tell you is that together we're going to be able to find the right music that can perhaps put a bit of margin around our spirit so we can make the next best decisions that we can make. Here's your homework for track 2. I would like you to read page 17 and 18 in the Power of the Playlist workbook that you can download for free on the National Music Center website. So you can get that at the Power of the Playlist website. Absolutely download it. You can also buy a hard copy today in the gift shop and cafe on level 1, or it's available online as well. I would like to send you the articles that I referred to today, and you will be able to get those when also the recording is available. If you're curious, the recording for last week's session is available. I'm also going to encourage you today to visit the wellness exhibit while you're here. There you're going to be able to see Dr. Daniel Levitin talking right at you. You will also see Dr. Bin Hu talking about his Parkinson's research that he is doing. I can also talk to you a little bit more if you're not sick of me yet. And then I'm going to suggest we take a moment this week to put 20 minutes of music together that soothes us. That's a playlist that, in my opinion, is time well spent. You can do it with friends. You can get together and talk about it. You can talk about all your differences as well as the things that you can agree upon. You can talk about what soothe means to you. Because for some of us, again, that term might be like sleeping. And for some of us, that might be that I just feel really chillaxed and I'm excited about the next day. So I'm encouraging you that. And then next week, we are going to meet right back here at 11 a.m. for track 3, where we are going to talk about how do we set ourselves up so we can do these playlists. What are we going to need? What does this mean? We're also going to talk about this transition we've all gone through between, that cassette that we had, the cassette player we had that some people still have, to streaming. And how do we make all these work for us? And not only that, how can we help others in our life have the access to the music they need when they need it? And if you're wondering how to get to the recordings, that's the URL right there. It's amplify.nmc.ca. That's where all the recordings are going to be, and also the resources that we're talking about. I mentioned that the books are available in the NMC gift shop right on level 1. And you can also grab yourself a really great coffee there if you feel like that, because, that's good too. Finally, if you would be open to doing a quick survey and some feedback so we can ensure that every session we are doing here is positive and exactly what you need in the moment, I would really appreciate you just taking a picture of the QR code here and filling it in, or if you want to take a picture of this slide, so we can get the feedback that we need. And I thank you so much for that. We want to be able to thank Belle for really supporting this power of the playlist, so we're able to do this program. Please encourage your friends. Bring a friend next week if you can. And also, we'll keep sharing the information that it's available in recordings afterwards. Thank you so much for your time. I wish you a great day.